Hello and welcome to another episode of the F1Breakdown podcast. My name is Jack George Maynard for any of you newer viewers listening to our podcast today. And basically since our last podcast we have had 2 Grand Prix in India and in Abu Dhabi, and obviously as you all know now, the championship itself has been wrapped up by basically 2 outstanding, dominant, I know Vettel hates the word dominant, victories from Sebastian Vettel, which has, caused him to, leapfrog and, go into the history books, becoming a quadruple world champion, and becoming, in the record books, second person, I think it was to do it, Fangio did it as well, sorry, my mistake, a third person to do it in a row, with Fangio, Schumacher, and now himself, and, it's a fantastic achievement from Sebastian Vettel, and, you saw it again that in Abu Dhabi, there was no sign of let-up. To win the race by over 30 seconds, and he was, getting a second a lap every second, and I think most of us knew when they were lining up on the grid at Abu Dhabi that Sebastian Vettel would probably lead down into turn 1, because we know Mark Webber, though he fantastically got pole position, we all knew that, Sebastian Vettel was probably going to get off the line because of Mark Webber's notoriously poor starts that he has, and he has virtually most of the races that he gets not well off the line. Mark Webber cost him in Japan as well, getting nipped from Romain Grosjean, who started third. To be fair, on that race, none of the Red Bulls really got away in Japan, allowing Grosjean to get up into first place. But in India, again, it was just a race of Vettel, and the race against, it wasn't even a race against the others, there was no other race, it was just Vettel in the lead, and bang, lap after lap, another second going away, another second, and another second, and another second going away. And it was exactly the same in Abu Dhabi. That's why he won by such a big margin compared to, all the other drivers. So we have to really hope that for 2014, the championship is a bit closer, because, we don't want, another Vettel dominant season for him to win 5 championships in a row. Hopefully the new rules and regulations and engine changes will cause something to just bring the pack closer together. That's what I think will happen. I really am sure that something like that will happen next season. I think the pack will be really closer together, and maybe even the Marushas and the Caterhams will be much closer together with the rest of the pack, because of the rule changes that might allow them to catch up a little bit, but that is the hope. But apart from that, there wasn't really much to report from India and Abu Dhabi, but the main focus of this podcast is now the latest news that have come out from Williams and from McLaren. Now, if you haven't heard, Williams have signed Felipe Massa on a multi-year contract, and he will be replacing Pastor Maldonado at Williams and be pairing Valtteri Bottas at Williams for the 2014 season, which I think, for Felipe Massa, it's great. He's back in Formula 1, so he wasn't out of the seat for too long. He's technically not been out of the seat because he's still driving for Ferrari till the end of the season, but he's secured his future for Williams. And also Rob Smedley, Felipe Massa's race engineer, is also set now to move across to Williams. There's been links that ever since Massa left that then Rob Smedley was going to move from Ferrari to Williams. Now, I don't know. I think now Ross Medley is obviously, he's a great guy and a great character, and the relationship he's had with Felipe Massa, has been amazing, that they've developed from 2006 all the way on to today. But you had to take that. I have that feeling that with Robert Smedley is that he's got, he's that kind of guy who you get personal with and you become friends with, and Felipe Massa and himself, Robert Smedley are like best friends. So you sort of knew when Ferrari was going to cap Felipe Massa's time, it was also sort of going to cap Robert Smedley's time at Ferrari, because you're sort of taking away, the heart and soul of Rob Smedley. He's, looking after the team, he's looking after Massa's side, and when Massa's gone, and because Massa's now such a huge friend to Rob Smedley, you felt like that was going to hurt him in a way. And now that Felipe Massa has gone to Williams, I think now we'll literally, put pen to paper with Robert Smedley to go to Williams as well, and probably take up a higher role in Williams in the team, and probably will still be Felipe Massa's race engineer. at the same time. I think that's probably more likely, but I reckon if Rob Smedley didn't create such a friendly and such an atmosphere, or they didn't create such a, best buddies, together, I don't know if Rob Smedley would be leaving Ferrari. But, that's like hindsight. Maybe he would have. Maybe he would have left Ferrari a long time ago because Massa was still there, so he stayed at Ferrari. So I don't know. There's many stories that go around in the paddock, but something of that could have happened, which is good. The only thing though I feel as a Formula One fan and as a journalist and for the sport itself is now Pastor Maldonado for next season doesn't have a seat, but his name is strongly linked for the Lotus drive alongside Nico Hülkenberg. Now we all know Pastor Maldonado brings money and Lotus are financially unsure, and yes, they say that this agreement that have come in which will help pay Kimi Raikkonen's wages off will help adjust the team and keep it financially secure. But with a team that needs money, and Pastor Maldonado that brings money, you feel like Pastor Maldonado will probably get the Lotus seat next season alongside Romain Grosjean instead of Nico Hülkenberg, who most in the paddock feel is more talented and more gifted and deserves the seat more than Pastor Maldonado. Now, I'm not going to say now that Pastor Maldonado is not going to do a good job next season, because I do not think that's correct. I think we saw from the 2012 season that he is good enough to make that step on to a bigger team, because we saw that the pole position, second place that became pole in Spain, and the race win, fantastic from Pastor Maldonado, keeping Fernando Alonso at bay. Second place in Singapore he got in 2012. He was constantly up the grid in qualifying, constantly, getting into Q3s and, putting that Williams car where Bruno Senna at the time, couldn't even dream of putting the car there. The only problem Maldonado had was in the races is that he was very rash with his overtaking moves, which led to Senna eventually having more points than him, even though Senna would have been getting the 8th, 9th, 10th, 7th place points, and Pastor Maldonado, when he was scoring points, was winning or getting a 4th or 5th place finish. So I think Maldonado has obviously proven himself to be in a seat, but I think Hülkenberg has, proved it more. And he's consistently quick, consistently sensible, doesn't get in many crashes like Maldonado does. He's quick again in qualifying, he's there or thereabouts, for Q3. In the races, he's there. Look at that. Korea was just an amazing example of what that kid can do. And I think it'd be a fool if Lotus were to take Maldonado, instead of Hülkenberg, because I think Hülkenberg deserves it much more than Maldonado. But money speaks in Formula One, and Formula One's not really in the best place when money gets to speak over talent. And if Hülkenberg goes into next season, because if Sauber signs Sergei Sorokin and Esteban Gutierrez for next season, and Hülkenberg doesn't go to Force India, then there's that is a huge problem in my opinion with Formula One, because someone of that talent should not be missing out on a seat. Going back, I think if you're circling this, 10 years ago, I think Hülkenberg would have jumped into a top team by now. But it's a shame that someone with that talent who doesn't have the money could be replaced by someone who, Maldonado has talent, but money speaks, and he has the money, so he'll be chosen not over talent, because I think Hülkenberg is far more talented than Maldonado, but over money, which is wrong in my opinion. But the move from Massa to Williams has sort of opened the door and make us suspect that, surely that means Pastor Maldonado is going to Lotus, because they're replacing him at Williams. Why would they replace him at Williams when he's bringing in the money with the VSA Venezuelan oil money into Williams? Why would they need to replace him if he's not going to Lotus? That is the big question mark. So it looks more and more likely that Pastor Maldonado will be getting the seat at Lotus, and I think he's probably now the favourite to get the seat at Lotus against Nico Hülkenberg. But moving on, what I find quite surprising is that McLaren have said that if they cannot get a seat for Kevin Magnussen, it seems, and Marussia, they were pushing to try and get one of their young drivers in a seat in Formula 1, is that he could be replacing Sergio Perez. Now, a lot of people have said that McLaren think Sergio Perez is underperforming, is not, living up to the expectations that they should have been living up to the expectations when they signed him. And this puzzles me. It puzzles me greatly. I have no idea why, people are thinking that Perez is not showing himself to be as good as Button. I don't see how he's underperforming. Yes, maybe in qualifying, Button has gotten into Q3 and Perez has missed out and is in Q2. But that car is underperforming, yeah. Where do they expect this car to be? They haven't made the drastic improvements that they made in 2009 to the car when it was out in Q1 and then getting into Q3. The drastic change has not happened this year. And you've got Jenson Button also, he's still missing out in Q2. Yeah, he's getting into a few Q3s, yeah, but he's also in some races missing out and getting into Q2. And when you see Sergio Perez and Jenson Button in the race, when they're in shot, they're virtually together. Yeah, you don't see Button is 30 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez. You don't see that in a race. If that was happening, then yeah, I'd understand why McLaren want to replace Sergio Perez, but I don't understand it. To my opinion, he's not really been underperforming. And from the last 5 races, yeah, Perez has outscored Jenson Button in total, and I think he's done a better job than Jenson Button over the last couple of races. Because you've got Singapore, Perez finished in 8th, Button finished in 7th. So there you go. So Button, beat him. In Korea, Perez finished 10th, Button finished 8th. So yeah, again, Button did beat him, yeah, but, and then in Japan, there was obviously a problem for Perez, which made him down to the 15th, Button only secured a 9th place. But then in India, Sergio Perez has an amazing drive, nothing goes wrong, a perfect weekend for him. The strategy goes well, everything goes well, he finishes in 5th place, and Jenson Button is down in 14th. Yes, Jenson Button, though, did have an excursion, but yet again, he didn't manage to claw back into the points. But 5th place for Sergio Perez, it doesn't show that he's not mucking around. It was a good, solid Grand Prix for Perez. And then in Abu Dhabi, Perez finished in 9th, and Jenson Button is out of the points in 12th. So overall, adding the points up together that they've scored, Sergio Perez has 15 points from the last 5 races, and Jenson Button has 12. Yeah, you could say over the course of the season, Sergio Perez has not scored as many points and Button has been in the points. But there's been races where, for example, Silverstone, where Perez had a tyre blowout right before the end. He was in the points. He was in front of Fernando Alonso at the time. He was in the points, so that could have been another, 4 points maybe for McLaren and Perez. But his tyre exploded, so therefore he was out of the race. And then you've got Monaco, yeah, and to be fair, Monaco, yes, he retired. Yes, he had that collision with Kimi Raikkonen at the Nouvelle Chicane. But at least he was trying his damn hardest to overtake and move forward. He was putting the most effort in. It was a joy to watch Perez in Monaco. It was a shame he didn't finish. Yeah, but it was a joy to watch because he was driving fantastically. Because, he was going for the moves, he made a few up, and they were spectacular, and that's what we wanted to see. And that's what I think McLaren, don't have. And, Jenson Button, yeah, he's a good driver, he's consistent, but you're not going to expect miracles from him. I can't see expecting miracles from him unless you give him a fantastic car. Because he's not going to pull off a stunning overtake. It's very rare you see Jenson Button pull off a stunning overtake. Whereas Perez, at least he entertains us. So I have no idea why, really. Yeah, they say he's underperforming, but for the first season in a car that's underperforming, I don't think he's done a bad job, Sergio Perez, and I think it'd be very harsh if McLaren decide to get rid of him. But that is it, and so Kevin Magnussen could be replacing. It's not official yet. I think it's ludicrous, in my opinion, if Kevin Magnussen does replace Sergio Perez, because I don't think he's done much wrong. You may disagree with me. I know most of the media will go on that, Sergio Perez is underperforming, but in my eyes, I don't think he is. And you might disagree with me, so if you disagree with me, drop a comment, let me know, and I'll be happy to get back to you, and, we'll have a debate about it. You can have a debate about it on our forum, just make a thing on our forum, on our website, www.f1breakdown.co.uk. That might have been too many www dots, but oh well. But yeah, that's all that's left for me to say in this video. and podcast for today. We have the American Grand Prix this weekend. Please remember to like, favourite and subscribe to F1 Breakdown, and thank you so much for listening. If you have any comments or disagree with me, please put it in the comment section below, and goodbye.